Call to order. Governing board meeting is called to order at 5 p.m. Everyone would stand for the flag salute, please. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Okay, roll call. Let the record reflect that all members of the governing board and administration are present. And call for the approval of the agenda. It is recommended that the governing board approve the agenda of the February 14th governing board meeting. No, sorry. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I'm a little excited tonight. All right. Do I have a motion? Motion. Thank you. Trustee Puchos. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Trustee Chong. All right, is there any discussion on the item? No. All right, if there's no discussion, then we will approve the item. I am an aye, so it's approved for. Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye, and I am an aye. All right, so it's approved 5-0. All right, now approval of minutes. Approval of the January 9th regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
A motion.
Thank you. Trustee Chong, and do I have a second? I'll second. Thank you, Trustee Amata. Estrada, and is there any discussion on the item? No. With no discussion on the item, we will move to approve the item. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes, any noes?
I abstain.
Abstention. Okay, thank you. I vote aye. So we have 4 yeses, 1 abstention to pass the vote. Governing board comments. Mr. Chong, would you tell us?
Oh, sure. Happy Valentine's to everybody. Thank you for joining us and being our Valentines on this board meeting. It's nice to share it with some other people. So that was really good. Hopefully you all get to go out and have some dinner and something nice and you get home. Nothing too much. I want to congratulate Mr. Beckelheimer as being the new interim principal at the Buena Park Middle School. I know they're in good hands and he'll do a great job. It was good to hear that we have people internal that can handle the pressure and run a good school and continue the good work that's going on. I want to say I'm excited for Corey School, Corey Community. Thank you. Welcome for being here. I know it's always a great night to hear all the amazing things you guys do. I know it's just one presentation is not enough to encapsulate everything you do, but thank you for being here. And we know you guys are working hard. So thank you for that. I'm really excited to hear that. I love that Every Student Succeeds presentation. That's one of our, like, bring our tissues, everyone, and see all the adversity sometimes our students go through to just, you know, come to school sometimes. And, you know, the successes are really awesome. So it's a really good experience that we'll have, I'm pretty sure. And just a couple of things. I know that there was a spelling bee. So I know congratulations to the winners that will be going on to represent us at the county level. Is that right? I thought that's really cool. As well as I heard outdoor science camp was great. I talked to some people outside. They were saying it was a really awesome experience for them to go and see snow and do all those things. And even our superintendent going and breaking ribs to go see them and stuff. So putting his life on the line always. That's how much he cares about our district. So thank you to the superintendent for going and checking in on them. And lastly, I just heard that our junior middle school, Buena Park Middle School percussion team got first place at a competition at La Quinta. The first time ever, and they got first place. So that was awesome. And again, we're not just about academics, we're about everything. So that's awesome. And so a lot of positive things going on. Just stay warm, stay healthy, halfway through the year, a little bit more. So that's all I have to say tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Estrada.
Hello and happy Valentine's Day to everyone. It's a pleasure seeing so many today. I just want to take a moment to just congratulate everyone on amazing work, and we're almost halfway through the year, and we can keep doing. Thank you. And I look forward to starting my school site visits later this month, and I'd also want to take a moment to congratulate Mr. Meckelheimer also as being interim principal at Bonaparte Middle School. And thank you everyone for being here, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Trustee Fructuoso.
President Shedd. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. It's always great to see parents, students, and teachers, at our board meetings. And it's also even more special when we get to celebrate, student achievements and all the great things that are happening at our school site. So I can't wait to hear Corey's report today. Across the district, we're doing a lot of great things, such as starting new Spanish classes at Pendleton. So their IB program is, up and running. There's also nutrition education classes for 4th and 5th grade at Gilbert Elementary, and also with the TK students. So that's something good that's going on. Comic Creators was, a big success the last few weeks. And also parent workshops. Our curriculum and instruction team has been leading colleges for me workshops. And I think that's very crucial to get the parents on board and having them have an understanding what college can look for your students, our child, right? Because they are our future self. Once we're a part of that journey together, it makes it so much more easier to understand how to navigate that course. I also want to congratulate our speech and debate. They made it to the Mardi Gras final. There was over 700 contestants and 180 made it to that final. So that is a big accomplishment. And I personally left that event inspired because having those students read a speech that has to be at least 3 minutes long can feel like an eternity for them. But they didn't crack under pressure. They delivered their speeches and they were successful, and we had a lot of students placed in the top 3. So our school district should be very, very proud of the work that they have accomplished, but also the coaches. The coaches are taking the time of their schedule and their day to make sure that these students are successful and keep performing, because that's not only going to help them in school, that's going to help them in life, right? You never know where our students are going to be, but if they're able to articulate themselves anywhere they're at, that is success in itself. So that is I left very inspired just by that performance. And then lastly, like Mr. Chong mentioned, the drumline team, that was their very first tournament, and they came in first place. Some of those students haven't even touched an instrument in their life. And it was awesome to see them perform, and they were locked in the whole time. So they gave a great performance, and I was very proud of them. And that concludes my report, President Shedd.
Thank you. Trustee Ahmad, please.
Thank you. I'm gonna move this a little closer. I just want to start by welcoming all the Corey staff, amazing Corey staff and families. We love seeing you here, and I love seeing the families here. And usually I really don't know a lot of the families, but I see one of the students, and I saw her yesterday at a basketball game, and she crushed us. You were so good. Oh my goodness. Yes, she crushed my son's team. She was really good. I was like, we need her on our team. I want to start with something that's a little sad, but I wanted to start with expressing just my deepest condolences for the passing of Jeanette Solomon. I think it hit us all very hard, and I just want to pass on my condolences to her family, to her friends, to the Whitaker family, and to all the Buena Park School District staff that I know knew her and loved her. She just was one of those people that had this light to them. And I always strive to be that kind of person, but she didn't have to strive. It was so natural. Anyone that talked to her felt it. And so she's definitely a huge loss to our district, but I know that, we're in good hands with the rest of the staff at Whitaker doing the best they can. Second, I wanted to talk about, I've kind of been busy with just dealing with some health issues with my family, but I've been watching everything, seeing it all, and I'm just so proud of all our students and all our staff for all their hard work. I'm proud of our spelling bee winners, our debate winners, our kinder kindness heroes. It's just so amazing to see all these great things happening, and I know it's all because of you guys that make sure it does. I also wasn't here for the last meeting, so I missed out on our stakeholders, our classified staff and certificated that give us little tokens of recognition. And that meeting is always a cringy meeting. And I say cringy because it's always feels like this isn't a job to us. Like we really enjoy doing it and we're here, for you guys and for the kids. So anytime we're appreciated, it just feels weird because we're doing something we love. And so I just wanted to say thank you since I wasn't able to say it that day. And that's it for me.
Thank you. And for myself, I'm excited for tonight also. I mean, Corey, I spent 7 years there with my grandson and I'm just so excited with that staff. They're phenomenal. I wanted to, top up this, the sixth grade awards assembly I went to at Buena Park Middle School. There were over 100 sixth graders getting awards for the 3.5 to 4.0 GPA, which I was really impressed with. And that was not only astounding, how many of their parents were there. It was standing room only. And so I was excited to see that participation. But again, it shows that when families are involved, that their students do well. And I know the teachers appreciate that. I also had a chance to go to the City Hall Elementary Art Show. And, there were students from Savannah, there were students from Centralia, but I mean, overall, Buena Park stole the show. And it was, we're very proud to see all of our kids, Pendleton, I don't want to start naming schools. Emory, there were so many schools that had so many fantastic entries they had like over 500 pieces of art. And so we just did a great, outstanding job. So I was proud of all of them. And got a chance to go to the spelling bee. It was the longest spelling bee I've ever been to. But it just shows how, how competitive and how good. Oh, and this little one, you were at the spelling bee too. Yeah, she did an excellent job too. Let's see, she's not only good at basketball, she's sports and academics. I love it. I also attended they had a night with elected officials. And so Dr. Miramontes and I went there. And there was a couple of senators, Assemblywoman, Orange County Supervisor, but something that I really was glad to see, one of them came over and asked how we're doing with our preschool and TK classes and about the teachers, how are we doing with having teachers prepared to do that? And so I'm really glad to see that legislators are interested in what's happening with us because, we need their help to get funding and to make things possible so that things run smoothly for our schools. So I was thankful to see that instead of us chasing them down, right? They're coming to us and asking questions. So that was really good to see. And lastly, I wanted to mention our teacher, Jeanette Solomon. It was a beautiful service that they had. And it was so good to see people from the Pendleton staff and the Whitaker staff, classified, certificated, management, administration, board members. Everyone was there in one accord, and it was so healing of a time. And over and over, they talked about her wit, her sense of humor, and her faithfulness. And so I was really just touched by that. And then we had a great reflection from Dr. Cantu at the end. And so that was very inspiring. I want to thank you for your words, but it was just beautiful. And I'm just always glad when we can all get together and work together and be in harmony and get things accomplished. So it was a sense of peace for everyone. So I just wanted to thank everybody who was a part of that. And that's it for me, Dr. Miramontes.
Yeah, I'll start off by saying enjoyed the 100th day of school. I know that's passed, and that's always a milestone that teachers, especially kindergarten teachers, really enjoy. Dr. Cantu has it right up on her office, 100th day of school, being a kindergarten teacher. Kindness Heroes was fun. Got to visit a couple schools to see things happening. So thank you to all the kindergarten teachers and staff members that helped put that together. Every school is a unique, but they made it their own. It was beautiful. Nothing better than having kindergartners share kindness. I do want to thank the KM Legacy Foundation and the Buena Park Education Foundation for sponsoring the capes and the medals. Those are always a hit every year. Spelling bee was fun. I wasn't able to stay the entire time, but I did enjoy the spelling bee. It's always, nail biters when you're sitting in the back. You don't want kids to see you stressing for them, but it's hard. It's hard to be up there. Outdoor Science School, it has been a success, and I want to thank our board for their commitment to sending kids up the Pali each year at no cost to our parents. That really is a remarkable program for our kids. Unfortunately, I didn't fall off of the high ropes. I wish I could have said, I felt just walking down the hill and broke 2 ribs. So yes, still healing off of those things. I do want to thank Shelly Andros, Mike Magbu, and Mike Anderson. We've got a green tree project that I talked about. Once all our construction ends, we have the tree project 2030, 50 trees by the year 2030 across all our campuses to really enhance our green space, so to say. Whether it's the city art contest, the drumline debate program, speech program, we're just having opportunities for our kids to participate. Regardless of the accolade, just having kids engaged in things really sets the bar a lot higher. As far as Jeanette Solomon goes, it doesn't get any better than Jeanette. She had a commitment to her students, commitment to her families, Pendleton family, the Whitaker family, and the Buena Park School District family. So Jeanette will be missed, but not forgotten. So thank you for all you've done, Jeanette, for the Buena Park School District. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Programs and reports.
Yes,
Dr. Miramontes.
we've got a couple of reports today, but we'll start off first with the Arthur F. Corey School Report. Started off, I'm going to kick us off. Mrs. Ortega, principal at Corey School.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Miramontes and the governing board for having us here tonight. Tonight, I'd like to just shine light on the wonderful things that are happening at Corey Elementary School. And if you could move the slide forward, please. Okay. And I always like to start with our purpose and our core. And I have a quote here that's adapted from Dr. Rudine Sims Bishop. She talks about books, but I'm talking about just education at our school as a whole. Education can be windows, mirrors, and sliding glass doors. So what does that mean? That means that tonight, hopefully, you will see into the windows. You will see through the windows of our school. You will see a reflection of our goals by what we present. And hopefully you'll be able to place yourself into the world of teaching and learning at Corey Elementary School. Next slide. So we're going to take you on this journey of 4 really important key points that I'll talk about tonight, which is data-driven professional learning for all of our staff members, certificated and classified, increasing rigor and relevance in CGI, our mathematical practice, instructional practices, spotlight on school-based counseling, and balanced literacy and culturally relevant text. So I'd like to start out with just a little bit of data here. So let's take a look at this data. This data is just one measure, but it's an important measure. It's our iReady reading growth, diagnostic 1 to diagnostic 2. And the important thing to recognize here is that we're seeing growth across all tiers, and that's extremely important. Seeing that our tier 1 has increased and we're seeing decreases in tier 3, our area where we have our students who need the most intensive support. And so on the next slide is another piece of data. And this is really important data that sometimes we don't always look to. We kind of look towards our standardized data, but we don't always look at the perception piece. And so what do our students think, right? What do they think about how they're achieving in the area of reading? And so I captured a few quotes here just so you can see how student-centered we are at Corey School. And students are saying, I like being word detectives because I can sound out big chapter book words. And that's from Avery P. And when I get to a clunk, I can stop and reread. And that's from Melanie P. My favorite reader is about Jasmine. She looks like me. For a second, I thought the book was going to say my name, and that's Lenita. I use a different sound to see if it sounds right, if there is a clunk, and that's from Isaiah D. So why are these quotes important? These quotes are important because Corey had an amazing opportunity, and thank you to the Educational Services Division for entrusting us in piloting the reading workshop revised units of study in grades kindergarten through second. These revised units of study offer us an opportunity to work with units of study that have embedded phonics in them. Also, the jump rope readers, which are the decodable text, are culturally relevant text. So our students then see experiences that are authentic to what they might live like in their day-to-day lives. And the characters that are represented in these decodable texts also look a lot like the students that we service. And so that's extremely important. So we're not only ramping up our instructional practice to meet the needs of our students, but we're also providing them experiences in the classroom that are relevant to what they see in their real world and in their homes. Next slide. So on our next slide, I want to talk a little bit about our math data. And math has been exciting for Corey for the past 2 years as we've gone on this CGI journey, which my staff is here. And I just want to say thank you for taking that journey with me. So we can see here again across iReady is one measure, but across all 3 tiers, we're seeing student growth. And the biggest indicator is that tier 3, the tier where we see the need for most intensive intervention and support, that tier has the biggest decrease. And so that's really important for us because that's telling us that we're meeting students where they are and we are seeing growth over time with our students. And that's one of the most important things for us to see. But I'm sure that you want to know, what are the students saying about CGI? So what are the students saying? When I'm stuck, I can come up with another way to solve the problem. I don't give up. Trinity C. CGI makes me a stronger mathematician. Arav P. I like working in groups and talking to my friends about how I solve a problem. And that's Scarlett F. I enjoy sharing my thinking and strategies with my friends most of all. I can get new ideas and change my thinking. And that's from Emiliano A. So CGI, like I said, this is our 2nd year in implementation for CGI at Corey School. And this has been an instructional endeavor that has been challenging for us, but that we also enjoy and that we see the benefit based on our iReady data, as well as our student perceptions about math and how they feel about math. One of the things that I really want to highlight is we often asked our students prior to CGI, what would you do if you got stuck? And the number one answer 2 years ago was ask my teacher. But the number one answer now is I can find a strategy to help me if I'm stuck. Or number 2, I can ask a friend and they can share their thinking with me. And that's really important. And that's a huge shift because it's students taking ownership of their learning. And so that's a wonderful process to see happen. And so we're definitely reaping the benefits and seeing growth in math across the domains. And we're seeing stronger procedural math skills and a stronger conceptual understanding in math. Okay. And so how do we show evidence that this is actually occurring? And so the next series of slides is simply some evidence from our practices and our hard work in CGI over the past 2 years. And so here you'll see examples of co-constructed tools and resources around several classrooms. And you can see one of our students, that's Adriana, and we had a guest that day and she was sharing her thinking that was in writing on one of the math boards in one of our 4th grade classes, and just sharing with our visitor her strategy and how she was able to build on her thinking by looking at another student strategy as well. Okay, and the next slide. More evidence, teachers listening to students thinking. And I'll revisit that a little bit later because we see this idea of adults in the building listening to kids. We'll see that come up in another piece of data. But this is a quintessential part of our practice in CGI. Our teachers are really attuned to listening to students and looking for information about their learning and their knowledge and what they understand, and then responding. And this is a craft that takes lots of practice. And I'm very, very proud of the hard work and dedication of the Corey staff in really honing in on this skill. Next slide. And then students being able to share their thinking in a variety of ways, whether it's whole group during a share out or whether it's working with a partner, whether it's coming up to share your thinking and your strategy and having other students ask you questions about your strategy, or have your teacher ask you if your thinking has changed or if you've adjusted your thinking or position and ask you to justify why. Okay. Next slide. And so all of that couldn't be possible without quality professional learning opportunities for our staff, for our teachers. So ongoing CGI demo and debrief with Momentum in Teaching, particularly Holly Compton, who we've relied on heavily based on teachers and teacher needs. So asking our teachers, what do you need to be most successful at implementation of these strategies and practices? And based on that, that drives the type of professional learning opportunities, whether it's a model lesson and a debrief or just a collaborative session with an expert in the field. And that's ongoing. And then growing an inclusive community has been something that we've worked on from last year. And so connecting with special education, connecting special education equity and instruction. We started the year off with the North Orange County SELPA, providing teachers and instructional aides just a foundational knowledge of special education. And then behavior support training with a special education focus from our North Orange County SELPA. We've relied on them to come and support all of our IAs, from our kindergarten IAs all the way to our special education IA, so that we all have a common understanding of how to support students with special needs. And then developmentally appropriate behavior supports with a general education focus, working with the Buena Park School District behavior team. We've provided opportunities for all of our IAs, kindergarten as well, through our special education IAs, to have opportunities to learn in that environment with looking at developmentally appropriate behaviors. And then things to come very soon, the Corey staff will be working on learning or dipping our toes in the waters of universal design for learning. And that'll be another partnership with the North Orange County SELPA. Next slide, please. And here are some artifacts captured, our professional learning opportunities at Corey School. We try to do our very best at prioritizing our staff meeting times and making them conducive to time for teacher learning and collaboration together, and really focused on what makes us shine, which is our instructional practices. So you can kind of see here just some of the presentations that we've had this year. I know that you guys were probably highly anticipating what our books chat was this year, and it was thinking mathematically. I didn't dedicate a whole slide to it this year, but that was thinking mathematically and taking our CGI practices up a notch and increasing the rigor. That's what we've been working on. And funny story, Jody Guarino, our staff developer for CGI, recently said, "I know it's the Corey teachers when they come to a CGI training and ask about conjectures." Yeah, that would be us. Next slide, please. Okay, and so I just wanted to highlight some of our social emotional learning data from our screener, our Panorama screener. And so before I talked a little bit about teachers listening to students thinking. And so that practice in CGI is very evident across our campus and other areas. And so it has definitely played a role in how our students perceive the adults in our building and how their needs can be met from the adults. So a piece of data from our Panorama screener this year that was a highlight was, when asked, do you have a teacher or other adult from school who you can count on to help you no matter what? The response by students, the favorable response was 90%, which is up 6% from last year on our spring survey. And so I say that to say that none of our practices are done in isolation of each other. We use our practices across in our instructional areas across our domains, we look at the whole child. We try to approach them in a way where they know that they have competent adults who can help them if they need it. And so that's one of the things that I wanted to highlight. Our teachers have done an amazing job of listening to their students, not just in math, not just in reading, but just in general. And so that's a piece of data that's impacted by just a practice from CGI that spills into all other areas of the instructional day. Okay, next slide. Okay. And then just a spotlight on our supports from our counselors. We are very grateful to have our school-based counselor, as well as our partnership with Outreach Concern for our interns, as well as our partnership with Orange County Department of Health and the clinician that works with us recently. And so some of the things that have come out of those connections and those partnerships and having our counselors is really a focus on providing education to parents and families in our weekly newsletter about our character education program, SEL program, as well as we've established several friendship groups so that we can help students navigate friendships across campus and really express themselves in a positive way. Our school counselor also works closely with our school psychologist. We've been working on students' self-regulation and having a common language amongst the practitioners on how we can teach students those tools, most specifically zones of regulation. And so some of our staff members have students who utilize those daily to self-regulate. We're doing lessons in the classroom, and that's a collaboration between our school psychologist as well as our school counselor for school-based support. And those are just pictures of our fantastic kids doing things together and working collaboratively. But our goal really is to one of our pillars at Corey School for PBIS are work, respect, and belong. And we've worked really hard to create an atmosphere at school where there is a true sense of belonging by our students. Next slide. And then I would be remiss if I did not mention our visual and performing arts program. We are so happy because we've been able to provide a variety of activities this year. We had a fall choir. I'd like to thank Kathy Hackett for taking that on. We had standing room only in our NPR, and our kids did an amazing job. We are well underway for the return of Disney musicals in schools. We will be doing our musical this year will be 101 Dalmatians. So I have an amazing team of both certificated and classified staff who have taken the lead, stepped up, and are really working hard with our students to give everyone a fantastic, amazing show. As far as Kinder Kindness, we put our visual and performing arts stamp on it. The kids did an amazing job with singing a very special song to their family and friends who came out to support. And then for our holiday show, we had an amazing turnout for our holiday show. Every grade level was represented by some sort of providing some sort of opportunity for song and dance and show, and our parents absolutely loved it. And so we also had opportunities for decorating for the holiday show. And so we had our kindergarten and TK classrooms do an amazing job in partnership with our parent volunteers to decorate our space. So we are really excited about bringing visual and performing arts back in a very in-person and tangible way for our students and for our community. Next slide. Okay. And so just to end with our purpose, similarly to the way that we started, the whole purpose of education is to turn mirrors into windows. So I hope that tonight you were able to see through the windows and peer into what is happening at Corey, and also see a reflection of all of the wonderful things that we're doing and all of the hard work that the Corey team puts into doing this work every single day. I couldn't be more proud, and I am honestly honored to be able to be a part of this amazing team. So thank you very much.
Questions or comments?
I'd like to make a comment. I don't know if I shared this before, but I actually started my career as a student teacher at Corey 20 years ago. Ms. Hale was my master teacher. And back then I already sensed a community of learning, lifelong learners. And today I think, we all look at data, data is important, but I like the data of every kid basically feeling like they have a champion in their teacher. That's just community and relationships. And I think that's one of our bigger priorities as a board. So regardless of math, ELA data, which is important, I get it, but as long as you care for your child, you care for a community, that's awesome. So I love math. I have background in math. So you got CGI. I love musicals. You got VAPA. I mean, I think Corey has it all today. I think she represented. So I always have a soft spot for Corey, but well done. Good job.
I just want to just take a moment and thank everybody for being here, but in hearing today's report, the three things that I've heard most was learning, teaching, and listening. And if I can sum that up in one word, I can sum it up with validation. Everybody's being validated for the work that's being done. And it was nice to see student quotes being captured. That's a nice personal touch because it's coming directly from them. And that's a nice way to highlight our students and their learning, but that is because of all the work that all the staff at Quarry is doing to make sure that everybody's heard, everybody is inclusive and validated with all the work that is being done there. So great job.
Excellent. I especially liked adding the student touch or voice to the data. And the abundance of professional learning for both teachers and IAs, because that's equally important. And it just shows how overall such a great job that you guys are doing. It just shows all of your abundant dedication to our students, our family. And I know I'm proud to have my grandson be there. My grandson, like I said, spent 7 years there. And he is now a senior at Buena Park and he's going to be graduating. And so he's getting ready to go to college. And I know it's because of the foundation that you guys gave him. And I'm just so thankful and appreciative for that. And I'm looking forward to who we are going to honor tonight.
Great, thank you, Mrs. Ortega. With that, we'll lead into the student recognition.
All right. So now I'd like to present our students recognized from Corey School. I'd like to recognize or welcome up Violeta Gutierrez. Violeta Gutierrez. Okay. Next, Addison Hamilton. Okay. All right, next, Ezekiel Abanobi. Okay. Next, Stephen Islas. Okay. Hayden Hirano. Matthew Garcia. And Zaya Anthony.
Sure, everyone wants to give over the ring.
Can I hurry?
Let's give the Corey students and staff members a big round of applause. Thank you, Mrs. Ortega. And for the Corey community, you're welcome to celebrate Valentine's Day and recognize your kids and staff members away, or you can hang out here for a couple of other hours and listen to a great board meeting. But this is your opportunity to take off. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ortega. Yeah, they should. While we're in transition, I do want to recognize, and I want to recognize our classified employee of the year and our certificate employee of the year. Lisa Ramos Sandoval in transportation was our classified employee of the year, and so we were out there celebrating, provided flowers to her for a job well done there. And then certificate was Kirsten Kim from Beatty Middle School, 6th-grade teacher. I think the only way they got her to accept was send her to camp, and she can't say no. And so when they got back, she was senior knit. So she's pretty humble about things, but she's an amazing teacher, and Lisa's an amazing classified employee. So congrats to both of them. Yeah, Chelsea, Dr. Sadowski, come on in.
The next report, the student, every student.
Yeah. Come and sit down. We'll go ahead and sit
Then we have every student succeeding recognition.
Great. Thank you, President Shed. Here to present the Every Student Succeeding recognition is Dr. Elsie Szymanowski. Szymanowski?
Good evening, Board President Shed, members of the governing board, Dr. Miramanes, Executive Cabinet, guests, parents, and families. I am excited to share with you this evening our 2023 award recipients for our ACSA, the Association of California Schools Administrators, recognition this evening for the 2022-2023 school year. My name is Elsie Briseño Simonovsky, and I'm the proud director here in the Buena Park School District in the Educational Services Division under Dr. Cantu. And it gives me great excitement this evening to share with you this year's award recipients. Next slide. AXA is actually, just to share with you a little bit, something that's very near and dear to my heart. I've been an AXA member for several years. And I have to say, one of the things that we are most proud of is this particular award recognition that we get to celebrate with everybody tonight, because these are students who have, under the spirit of this award, who have achieved great success, who have overcome obstacles, challenges, and despite those challenges and obstacles, have beaten the odds academically in different areas, attendance, social emotional wellness in a variety of capacities. And so as the AXA Educational Options President for California, it gives me great pleasure to open up this evening's celebration. And so what we'll be doing tonight is we will be recognizing the name of the student, followed by a gift that our principals are going to be providing to our students, along with the certificate on behalf of our district with Dr. Miramanes. So I'm going to go ahead and send it over to our first principal, Ms. Ortega.
All right, I'd like to call up Eli Camus. And Corey is recognizing Eli. Eli is a student of honor and integrity. He represents what Corey believes to be a student that is inclusive. And he is an amazing, amazing leader on our campus. So thank you, Eli.
Good evening. At this moment, I'd like to call up Vicente David from Emory Elementary. And Vicente is a student who came to us from Washington and adjusted very nicely to our campus. He always comes to school with a smile on his face, and I can see him out on the basketball court playing, and we definitely always find each other on the playground. So congratulations, Vicente.
So I am glad to say that we are not celebrating him in spirit. We are celebrating him in person. Today, this evening, we have Christopher Catalan. We are extremely proud of him as a school community, but more importantly, I hope that he's proud of himself because we have seen him grow, mature, persevere. We have seen him love learning and create these trusting relationships with adults. And really, we know as long as Christopher continues to show these great characteristics, he's going to have great success in future. And so not only are we celebrating him here today, but we look forward to celebrating him at Bowers Museum as he is our district student. So congratulations, Christopher. All right, everybody see in the back.
We'll make sure everything- he was welcome.
Okay, at this time, we want to call up Juan Mejia from Pendleton Elementary. Juan is newer to us and is learning English presently. He comes to school with a smile on his face every single day. He actively participates in all of classroom discussions and sometimes will ask, ¿Cómo se dice? And ask how to say a word. We have a newer student that just arrived, and Juan, although learning English himself, is translating already for his new peer. So we're very proud of his positive attitude and all of the hard work that he puts in every single day.
Whitaker student we would like to honor is Sophia Garcia. She may look familiar too because she was also our 5th grade student of the year. We would like to honor Sophia for her undying dedication to school, to her academics, to her social and emotional growth. Over the past 2 years, Sophia has increased her attendance from 43% to 87%. And this year, Sophia also is participating in our school choir and encouraged some of her friends to join as well. We are so proud. Congratulations, Sophia Garcia.
Good evening. Beatty Middle School would like to introduce Alfredo Ramos Virgen. Alfredo truly exemplifies what it means to be a Bronco and what it means to lead the way. Despite his coming back to school after having been on virtual online learning, he's come back and he's really hit the ground running. He is a student that is very respectful, always has a smile on his face, and really, again, exemplifies and models for his peers what it means to be a student that is dedicated to his classes and also dedicated to his school. So we're proud of him.
Buena Park Middle School is proud to introduce to you Jovan Crisostomo. Let me tell you some fantastic things about this young gentleman. Look at him. He literally grew up here at Buena Park Middle School. And I'm going to talk about his plans for the future because what he's done in the past is great. But he is a mechanical engineer in training, a drummer for the first place winning drum line at the Winter Percussion Festival this weekend, and he takes care of his mom. Really a terrific individual who represents everything good at our school and everything fine in our community, and I'm proud to know him, and I can hardly wait to see what his future holds. Jovan, you're the best.
Again, we are really excited and proud to honor these students tonight who from each school has demonstrated success, who have beaten the odds and challenges beyond the expectations. And as you can see this evening, with the principals, the teachers and the staff that they represent have simply won the hearts and minds of our educators here in Buena Park School District. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Szymanowski. Parents and staff members, you're welcome to enjoy Valentine's Day back at home, or you can hang out with us. Your choice. Thank you.
You know.
Recruited for basketball, football, soccer, whatever. Good size.
The last guy was a soccer player. The guy
You can tell he
before
looks like a
that
soccer player.
was considering football. All kids.
So 80 or better?
Debating.
Oh.
Night.
Yes, and the drummer, he was part of that. All right.
Right. So now we're ready for hearing session. The audience members may request to address the board on an item on or off the agenda. Per board bylaw 9323, individual speakers shall be allowed 3 minutes to address the governing board on each agenda or non-agenda item. The board limits the total time of public input on each item to 20 minutes. The total time allowed for public comment shall be 30 minutes. Audience members wishing to address the board during the hearing session of the agenda should fill out a request to address the governing board form and turn it in to the executive assistant prior to the board holding the hearing session. Dr. Miramontes, are there any comments?
We have no public comments.
All right, thank you. All right, so hearing session, the initial bargaining proposals pursuant to Government Code 3547. Negotiations are not permitted until proposals have been made public. The governing board of Buena Park School District will provide time for public comment on the Buena Park School District and the Buena Park Teachers Association initial proposals for bargaining for the 2023-2024 school year. Dr. Miramontes, are there any comments for the hearing session?
Just that we have supporting documents from BPTA to Buena Park School District and Buena Park School District to BPTA.
Okay,
And we'll take action a little bit later.
all right,
thank you.
yes. All right, action calendar, adoption of the updated Buena Park School District Governance Handbook. It is recommended that the governing board adopt the updated Buena Park School District Governance Handbook. Dr. Miramontes.
Yeah, the handbook reflects the fifth member of the team, Brenda Stratus. I just wanted to make sure that the board is well aware of that. We're asking the board to approve the district governance handbook.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll
Thank you,
second.
Ms. Burgess. Thank you, trustee. Lamont. Richardson, yes. Is there any discussion on the item? Okay, with no discussion on the item, we will move to approve the item. All in favor?
Aye.
Any noes? I vote aye, and so the motion passes 5-0. Nomination and vote for 2023 California School Board Association Delegate Assembly. It is recommended that the governing board nominate and vote for no more than 9 nominees for the 2023 California School Board Association Delegate Assembly. Dr. Miramontes.
Yeah, this is the opportunity for the board to select their 9 members to represent them at the delegate assembly. I'll turn it over to you to decide.
We just throw out names that we want to nominate.
Sure.
How many do we have up to? 9?
Up to
Up to
9.
9.
Can we just vote one?
You do whatever you want.
I think there's only one standout in this list. I nominate
Which one do
Rodia
we
Shed
kinda
from
want?
the Buena Park School District.
So am I hearing, you'd like to recommend?
I'd like to
Rhoda Shed
recommend Rodia Shed for
Sure.
Buena Park,
from Melfett?
our delegate.
Thank you.
I do happen to know that Marilyn Anderson from Placentia Yorba and Lauren Klatsker, I want to pronounce that. I don't know,
From Fullerton?
from Fullerton. I always like to look at districts that are around us and have kind of the same issues that we deal with. So I'd like to add those 2 names if everyone's okay with it.
Okay with that.
Okay,
I'm also suggesting Michelle Barto. Barto from Newport Mesa.
So just to recap, Aaron, it's Michelle, Marilyn, Lauren, and Rhodia. It's 5.
Or
I'd like to nominate Jackie Philbeck,
And there's the 5th, Jackie Philbeck from Anaheim.
Anaheim, and Carrie Flynn.
6 from Brea Linda.
I'd like to nominate Arturo Montes from Centralia.
7, Arturo Montes from Central.
Okay, I think everybody's in the queue.
So we have 7. Are we okay with 7? Okay,
Yes, all right.
so can we read back, goes back, it was Carrie, it was Jackie, Carrie Flanders.
Mhm.
Carrie Flanders, Jackie Philbeck, Michelle Barto, Marilyn Henderson, Lauren Klatzer, Arturo Montes, and Rhodia Shed.
All right.
We need a motion.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to go ahead and submit those 7 names that Dr. Miramontes just read off.
All right, thank you, trustee Ahmad, and do I
I'll second
have a
that.
second?
I'll second.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chung. All right, is there any discussion on the item? Okay, with no discussion on the item, we will move to approve the item. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and I vote aye, so it's a 5-0, motion passes. Okay, that brings us to resolution number 22-16. Resolution of the Board of Trustees of Buena Park Elementary School District supporting preschool, transitional kindergarten, and full-day kindergarten facilities grant program. It is recommended that the governing board approve resolution number 22-16. Dr. Miramontes?
Yeah, well, in 2216, 2217, 2218 are all the same. The difference is the resolution, one's for pre-K, one's for TK, and one's for kindergarten. And this just provides us the option at no cost to the district right now, if we get the facilities funding to construct additional classrooms for pre-K, K, or TK, the cost would come out of the grant at that time. But CFW is, we would like to have CFW submit the application on our behalf. They've been pretty successful. I think 60% of the awardees came from that firm. So for C, D, and E we're asking for approval by the board to adopt each one. We can go by each individual, but I thought I'd give you guys all an update at one time.
Okay, so is there a motion to adopt resolution 22-16? Thank you, Mr. Frutos, and is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Strada. And is there any discussion on the item? Okay, with no discussion, we will move to approve the item with a roll call vote. So Trustee Chung,
Yes.
trustee Estrada,
Yes.
trustee Fructos.
Yes.
Trustee Ahmad,
Yes.
and I'm a yes also, so that is a 5-0 pass. Thank you. And now to resolution 2217. And
I'll make a motion.
thank you,
I'll second.
trustee Ahmad. And was that Mr. Chung?
Yes.
Thank you. For resolution number 22-17. Is there any discussion? All right, with no discussion, we will move to approve the item with the roll call vote. Trustee Ahmad,
I'm an aye.
trustee Chung,
Aye.
trustee Estrada.
Aye.
Trustee Fructos.
Aye.
And I'm an aye also, so motion passes 5-0. And then resolution 2218, do I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, trustee Chung, and a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, trustee Fructus. And is there any discussion? Okay, with no discussion on the item, we will move to approve the item with a roll call vote. Trustee Ahmad,
Aye.
trustee Chung,
Yes.
trustee Estrada,
Aye.
trustee Fructus,
Aye.
and I am an aye also. Motion passes 5-0. Okay, now the approval of the 2023-24 Buena Park School District Budget Development Calendar and Preliminary Budget Assumptions. It is recommended that the governing board consider and approve the 2023-24 Budget Development Calendar and Preliminary Budget Assumptions as provided. Dr. Ramontes.
Yeah, this is the time of the year we start planning next year's budget. Here to kick us off is our Chief Financial Officer, Mrs. Sandra Poteet.
Thank you. Good evening, Board of Trustees, Dr. Miramontes, community members and staff. Tonight, we'll go over the governor's budget proposal for 23-24 and how that'll impact our development of the 23-24 budget for the district. Next slide, please. So the state, the budget and economy, the state is fighting against rising interest rates, supply chain, struggling stock market. All those things are still impacting the economy for the state of California. Most economists believe that we will have a mild recession sometime in 23 or 24. The governor, in his forecast for revenue, he does assume a slower economic growth, but he does not put in a recession. So he is building the budget without there being a recession. So that does leave a slight risk. Even without that, the forecast for the budget for the state is 29.5 billion lower than our current budget at the state. So there's a gap of 22.5 billion in the state's general fund. And through a variety of tactics, funding delays, reductions and pullbacks, fund shifts, trigger reductions and borrowing, so a variety of items. The governor was able to keep the state's reserves intact and present a balanced budget. So he did, there were different things. Good thing for us, there's only one small thing that impacts us negatively in budget development. So we could go to the next slide. For the education budget, the largest part of the education budget is for what's called the Proposition 98, which is the funding source for the education budget at the state. And the COLA and the LCFF take up the majority of the funding for that. Interestingly enough, because the state does not have enough money of ongoing dollars, there's the COLA is 8.13. And in order to afford the 8.13, the governor, in his strategic wisdom last year, when we had a boon of revenue, provided programs for one time. And so when he went to reallocate the budget this year, those dollars are basically freed up. Even though they were ongoing dollars last year, he only assigned them out to schools, to districts as one-time funds. So because they weren't used for an ongoing program, they're available for him to now allocate this year. So that helped in the ability to fund the budget for this year. They are anticipating being able to fund the entire COLA that's currently projected at 8.13. But a third of that, even though I said we had ongoing funds, 1/3 of that COLA is funded on one-time funds at the state level. So there were one-time programs for us that were ongoing last year, state money where he's using. In addition, he has one-time money this year he's using to fund the ongoing COLA. So there is some concern that even though we can afford the 8.13 COLA this year, what will happen in the out years? Will the state still be able to fund that? Now, the state, let's go on to the next slide, please. So he is preserving his initial programs that he started last year. He's continuing transitional kindergarten, expanded learning, funding transportation and preschool. Very few new programs for this year. If you qualify, they're impactful, but we don't really qualify for them. There's the new equity multiplier add-on to the local control funding formula. We don't have any schools that qualify for that funding. There's an enhancement of the one-time literary coaches program and adding of a literacy roadmap. That was from last year. We are not participating in that. There was a 12th grade cultural enrichment, which we don't qualify for. And then there's the opioid overdose reversal funding, which we already are providing opioid reversal medication on site. We already have that. So this would be funding from the state so that we would get some funding for this, but it is something that we're already doing. The other piece that impacts us is the governor has proposed cutting the arts, music, and instructional materials discretionary block grant. He's proposing cutting 1.2 billion from that program. Now, it was a one-time funding program. He's cutting about 35% of that funding. Now, this is a proposal from him. Now, the interesting piece is that funding is already assigned to be distributed. We've gotten the first half. The second half is scheduled to be released in May. If there's no legislative action between now and before May, it will already go out. It requires legislative action for this to occur, but it has been proposed. We think it's being proposed to say, tell me something better that you want to have cut, but this is what I put in. So we'll wait and see if there's a better suggestion through the legislative process. But right now, this is what there has been proposed. Let's go on to the next slide. There is one other additional new funding, but it is not coming from Prop 98. It's not coming from the budget. If you may recall in your election ballot last November, there was Proposition 28, the Arts and Music in Schools funding Guarantee and Accountability Act. That did pass. It has been funded through the state budget. It's outside of Prop 98. It's an additional component. It's equitable too. It's designed to be 1% of the prior year Prop 98 guarantee. The act included that it's about $1 billion to the state for this year. It's going to cost them. It's distributed based on a 70-30 model, 70% based on statewide enrollment. And then if you're low income, 30% of the funding is on top of that for low income. Interestingly enough, we do have to distribute that. It is assigned by school. So the state is calculating it by school. And so each school will have an exact amount from the state and we have to maintain that. So we can't really pool it all together and redivvy it up in our own way. We have to support it the way the state says.
Was that about $700,000?
Yes, it's about $700,000 for us across the district. Some sites getting 50 to 60,000, some getting as high as over 100,000. We go to the next slide. Every year we would have to certify that that we are spending 80% of the funds to employ staff for arts education. Now, the tough part of that, I will say, is that means that if 80% has to be funded on staff, if you had an outside program that you wanted to contract to bring in to teach dance, for example, that doesn't count as personnel costs because they're a contracted agency. So this does require hiring personnel. We are only allowed to spend 1% of the funding for administrative expenses. And each year the governing board would have to provide a board approved report that indicates what programs we had, the number of staff, number of students served, number of schools providing arts education programs with the funds, and each principal would have to develop their own expenditure plan. The rules for this are still being interpreted because it was brought through the voters through that process. There's some things that don't quite make sense.
And they're having to come through and make a determination on how it's really going to function for next year. But it is funded for next year, so we'll continue to monitor that and bring it forward.
Ask a question on that one. So 80% has to go to staffing, then if it's 700K, we're looking at like five something. That means you can hire only like five, you have to hire like full-time staff, 5 staff members when we have like 6 sites, or 7 sites.
Well, you wouldn't have to hire full-time staff. You could hire a staff member on a 0.2 FTE that is doing a small little program. You could combine some schools based on their funding amount, might share one, might share a person. It really just depends what the focus is going to be at each school on how they're going to use that, because it's between any arts education program. So whether it's music, fine arts, photography arts, dance, theater, all of those things qualify. So
And you can't supplant, meaning you can't take this money and pay for an existing position you already have.
correct.
But like if the site is supposed to come with their own plan and they want a 0.2 for band, I mean, you're not gonna find a 0.2
Correct.
person. Like,
Well,
Correct.
yeah,
We're
Okay.
looking to guide,
Okay.
Yeah.
to help guide staff and possibilities of looking at using the funding throughout the district and creating a cohesive program, but still being part of what they, a site-by-site program. All right, if we could go ahead and go to the next slide, please.
So, yeah, so, Mr. Chong, so Yvette, Dr. Cantu, myself, Mrs. Zenteno, we've talked about the possibilities of how to maximize. And we've talked about Meet the Masters.
I was ready to like, oh,
Yeah.
meet the masters. There we go.
So we've talked about multiple
Can't
things
use
that
it.
we can actually do and listening to what other districts are doing as well. We're a small district, but we have some pretty good ideas of how we can maximize this. And work with our site principals to develop plans that would be consistent so that every school had something.
And the
that's-
money's continuing, right?
well, and that's the worry is that yes, so far the money's continued, but at a certain point, there's not gonna be any more money. And I don't want to be I know this is an ongoing thing because the voters proposed it. But it's one of those things that, like the ELOP, we all worry that we're gonna get to a cliff and there's gonna be no more money unless we print it. So we really have to be careful about how fast we get out there. And doing things right. So we have some ideas about possibly some short-term people to come in and help us do some things. But we might also supplement that with some full-time music teachers at each of our elementary sites, right? So it's a balance of both. So we're working through that. The idea is to have that pathway from elementary, from pre-K, because we already have Gina Badi is working with our pre-K, K, and TK students already. And we have this pathway from pre-K all the way up to 8th grade. And it would be fascinating to have a drum line from the little kids all the way up to the middle school. And we're gonna increase, I know Mrs. Cote's super excited about this, is providing an opportunity for music to be at Beatty. Originally, we talked about that we would only have it here, but kids there need music as
They
well.
do.
So we're looking
Yeah.
at, so how to sort of balance it out across the district so that everybody has an opportunity to be a part of music, dance, theater, drama, whatever it might be. It's a great thing for us. I'm a little skeptical about when the money runs out, or when we throw everything out there, is there gonna be enough money after this clip of ADA? Because remember, fiscally, we receive money by the average daily attendance. We used to sit at 96%, we're at 90 now, and we're doing things to combat that. But there are also other things that are out there, so we'll keep working through it.
As I said, 80% on personnel, that other 20% can be on material supplies or contracted services. So there is some possibilities for some things. We just have to manage it. As we go on to budget development, our budget development process begins with our enrollment projections for our student enrollment, which then drives our revenue of our LCFF and state and federal, and that also drives our expenditure assumptions. So if we can go on to the next slide, look at our enrollment projections. We are still projected to decline. The decline is estimated at 130 students going into next year. So we're expecting enrollment of 3,835 students for next year.
Wow.
Does appear to taper off a little bit in 24, 25. We'll see how that goes. It's an estimate. It's a projection. We could go to the next slide. As I said, we're declining enrollment, and as Dr. Miramontes mentioned, we're also in ADA decline. So we've done a little bit of history walking in from 2016-17 through 2019-20. We were at 95% of C-beds. So our attendance, our enrollment changes and fluctuates throughout the year. But if you take it based on C-bed stay, which is your count in October, your one official state count, period 2 or P2 attendance, that's the attendance rate that you're funded on. That ratio has been 95%. And we had no actual attendance reported for 2020-21. We were funded differently that year. And then as we've come out of the pandemic, 21-22, we were still in, and we were at 92. We've dropped to 91% currently. We're just under 90. We're right at 91% going in. So we've lost 4% of our overall funding when you look at what we could be earning. Now, the good thing is if the numbers go up, we get that money, and we're not stuck with this percentage. So we have opportunities, and I know we're working on programs to increase that ADA. But just to be safe, as we're looking to project where our current history shows is that we're at 91%. So we're going to use those numbers at this time to develop the budget in the out years. We could go to the next slide. So the current projected COLA is 8.13. That is not the final COLA. The final COLA won't be known until April. There's still 1 or 2 data points that need to be finalized. That is a statutory calculated rate. We have programs that will receive the COLA, the LCFF, the special ed, child nutrition programs, child development program, and the mandate block grant. Those all do get the COLA. However, our ELOP, Expanded Learning Opportunities Program, and our After School ACES program, those do not receive a COLA. So they have to live within their means without an increase in funding. We can go to the next slide, please. For other state funds that we receive, the lottery is projected to go up to 170 per ADA. Restricted lottery is $67 per ADA. Mandate block grant is $37.78 per ADA. So here again, even on these other programs, when your ADA ratio is 91% of attendance and not 95, it declines even these dollars that we receive. Our federal programs, we anticipate those right now at the same funding levels as last year. We fall so far behind. The federal cycle is so different than ours. We don't know our federal programs. We're just now learning the federal programs for 22-23 now, and we're in February. So what we know now is what we'll use for 23-24. The cycle is just, we don't run in the same cycle. So it's just, we use what last year was until we get a number for this year, for the following year. We could go to the next slide, please. So when our majority of our funding comes from our LCFF, or the local control funding formula, and that is built on a base grant per ADA, and each of the grade spans are listed here: TK, K through 3rd, 4 through 6, 7, 8, and 9, 12. Each of those base grants will receive the COLA of 8.13%, giving us a new base grant per ADA allocation. Then there's what's called the grade span adjustment. And so TK, K through 3, and grades 9, 12 receive an additional amount for the grade span for lower class size. Then new this year was, and is continued into next year, is the TK add-on. And that gets added on only to our TK students. And that is to fund the additional staffing that is required for TK. TK by law now requires not only one a classroom teacher, but a second adult in every classroom. And so we did receive additional funding for that. So that is added on. That provides you your adjusted base grant per ADA. And then we have what's called the 20% for supplemental grant and the 65% for concentration grant per ADA. And those get added on top. That's our supplemental and concentration that's based on our unduplicated pupil count. Our unduplicated pupil percentage is approximately 83% this year. So it has gone up. So we are receiving a significant amount of supplemental and concentration dollars. And those are tied directly to the development of our local control accountability plan, or our LCAP. So those dollars are specifically identified in the LCAP. We could go to the next slide. So we know the numbers. We're using the COLA of 8.13. We're going to assume our enrollment is 3,835. We're estimating the ADA as 91% of enrollment. We're using the unduplicated pupil percentage of 83%. And the funded ADA, we have a choice, not a choice. You get funded on the greater of current or prior year, or the three prior year average. And that is new. This 23-24 will be only the second year. We've had the ability to use the 3 prior year average formula. And that is what we anticipate we'll be using to fund 23-24 based on our numbers. So those are the assumptions specifically to the LCFF. We go on then to the next slide and we look at our expenditures. That is the large portion of our budget, over 75% typically is spent on personnel costs. Negotiated staffing ratios determine our projections. As I mentioned earlier, TK is at 24-1 plus that second adult, making a ratio of 12-1. Our kinder ratio is 24-1. Grades 1 through 3 are at 26-1. Grades 4 through 6 and 7 through 8 are all at 30-1. And we use those numbers to project our staffing and what number of teachers we'll need to staff our school sites next year. We also include any step and column estimates for next year into the budget development. Go to the next slide. In addition to the salary that employees are paid, we have benefits that also get calculated and are costed out for the year. For 23-24, the CalSTRS rate is projected at 19.10. That rate isn't finalized yet. There is an opportunity for the governing board to change it. We don't anticipate a change in CalSTRS. CalPERS is bumping up to 27%. That could change. Their board meets, I believe, in April, and we could see an adjustment in that of going up. Social Security is a flat 6.2%. It applies to classified employees. Medicare for all employees is at 1.45. The unemployment insurance is at 0.2%. Workers' compensation is at 2.25. And then we have to include an estimate for what our health insurance changes are. BPTA has a cost sharing plan where the members pay a percentage and the district pays a percent. We anticipate the district side to go up 7% at this time. We will know those numbers in early April. So we get our medical renewal in early April. So we will have better information at that time in order to build the final budget. But as of now, we're building it at a 7% estimate. Our classified CSEA and management employees have a cap, so we don't build in a budget increase for them because they have a hard cap that the employees pick up any cost beyond what the district pays at this point. So we're not anticipating an increase in the cap at this time. So those are the benefit rates that'll apply to the salary expenditures for the budget. Next slide, please. So our next steps externally, we're going to wait for the May revision to come out from the governor. So now the legislature is working on developing the budget. They're looking at all the different proposals. The governor will come back in May. He'll have a better estimate of revenue. However, he won't have a full estimate. Not sure if most folks know, but there are some counties that now don't collect their taxes till May 15th in the state of California. So the governor will not have all tax revenue from the state known by April 15th by the time he does the May revise. But he'll have much better information than what we have now for what the revenue looks like. Then the legislature will work on that budget. Governor will present his revision in May. They'll work on a proposal and they're to provide that to the governor by June 15th for an approval by July 1st. These are dates in statute, but as we learned last year, they proposed sort of a shell budget, and then they didn't actually finalize the budget with Trailer Bill till mid-July or after last year. So we'll wait and see. Those are the external factors. We, however, internally, we are required to have our budget adopted by July 1st. So we will finalize our staffing. We'll finish out our site and department allocations and get those out to the site so they can develop their budgets. We'll update any of our factors that change based on the May revision and other known sources. And at June 8th, our budget will be available for public inspection. June 12th, we'll bring it here for a public hearing at that board meeting alongside the LCAP. And then on June 26th, we'll adopt the budget and the LCAP, which must align. So we'll be working with the Ed Services Division because the two documents need to align. Everything that's in the LCAP needs to be in the budget. So we'll be working together on that as we progress through the year. So those are the next steps for the district's budget development. Are there any questions? Next slide.
I have two, actually. One, do we have attendance recovery opportunities?
We don't currently run that program. Yes, we have an opportunity to do so.
Is that something that we're looking into? Just curious.
We can look at that. I know it's every Saturday. We talked about that a little bit with, not with ELOP, but with ELOP, I guess, extension days. But that would be a great opportunity for us to do so. So basically what Mr. Trunk's saying is you hold a Saturday school, and for those students that don't attend a school, to make up some of their ADAs. Some districts do it once a trimester, or once a month, right? Haven't heard of anybody doing it every week, every month. Typically, it's once a month.
Once a month.
So, yeah.
Second question is just to estimate hypothetically, what's 7% increase look like compared to a cap? Like, what's the difference on the health benefits for having a percentage?
I
Think
don't know
share.
that off the top
Okay.
of my head.
Is it pretty like big or small? You just common language, big, small?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
We can do that
Because
information detail.
we can do some analysis and send that out. The current split is on certificated. The employees pay 85%, the district picks up 15% of the cost. Whereas with the cap, there's a flat rate based on if you're claiming employee only, employee plus one or family, the district pays a flat amount towards your health benefits, and then the employee picks up the difference.
The difference, we don't not sure yet.
Correct.
I don't have any questions, but I'm just wondering, do you happen to know what was their thinking behind the 12th grade cultural enrichment program that they're giving schools money to?
Oh, for the high school?
Yeah.
Grade 12?
Like in 12th grade,
It
they're
was-
already out the door. I mean,
It's to allow seniors opportunities to go on field trips to museums and places like that. So it's specific for 12th graders to go on field trips.
wow, maybe for like college,
It's, I think it's a way to sort of
it's a waste of money.
build that opportunity for kids to actually see it, but again, what's cultural? Raves can be, we've had this discussion, raves are cultural, right? I mean, so those are things that we really have to look at. And so again, those are all proposals from the governor, whether they stick or not, we'll see. I think it's his attempt to say, we are thinking about diversity, and it's my way of including it. Is
Yeah,
this
it
the
would be
best
great
way?
Earlier.
We'll
in
see,
the-
right? So.
Any other questions, comments?
Thank you, Mrs. Potteet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, Mr. Fuchs. And do I have a second?
Mr. Chung, I'll second.
Oh, Mr. Chung, you, okay, thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the item? All right, with no discussion on the item, we will move to approve the item. All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
And I'm also an aye. Motion passes 5-0. Okay, then approval of job description, community outreach supervisor. It is recommended that the governing board approve of the job description on the community outreach supervisor. Dr. Miramontes.
We talked about the decrease in ADA across the district. There's also a need here for a position to assist the Division of Student Community Services. It really is a 24/7 position, right? That's it being management to help monitor, communicate relevant information, parent engagement, training homeless children and fostering youth. It's a catch-all in that department, working on chronic absenteeism, basic needs, instant trauma. We had that family, two families in the last couple of years that had their homes destroyed by fires. And so we can't wait till the morning. So we're looking at, and many districts are doing the same thing. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Cantu to elaborate a little bit more on what I'm asking the board to adopt tonight.
Yes, the community outreach supervisor will really serve our students, our families, and our district in three critical areas. First, as Mrs. Botita already mentioned, to help increase our ADA by making sure that our students arrive to school on time, stay the entire day, and increase their attendance. Our goal is 97% of a daily average rate, and currently we're at 90%, and that's increased over the last 2 months. Around November, it was as low as 84% at some of our school sites. And so in addition to that, we want to make sure that our most vulnerable students are attending and that we actually respond to our responsibility to reduce the chronic absenteeism for our foster youth, our homeless, and students with disability. The state dashboard does recognize that those three subgroups are extremely high in their chronic absenteeism, and that we now need to make sure that we respond to their needs, whether it be health, wellness, or basic needs such as food and shelter so that they can come to school. And overall, supporting our school sites. They will have an additional person, the site family engagement liaison, which is tasked with that responsibilities at the school site. So we would like to have a district level person who could support them in their quest to make sure all students come to school regularly, that they increase their academic development, as well as meeting the family needs, as mentioned before, some of their basic needs, as well as wellness, health, and nutrition.
Any questions?
Do I have a motion? Thank you, trustee Fructos. And do I have a second? Thank you, trustee Estrada. Is there any discussion on the item? All right, with no discussion, we will move to approve the item. All in favor? Aye. I'm also an aye, so the motion passes 5-0. Acceptance of middle school agricultural career technical education incentive grant. It is recommended that the governing board accept the agricultural incentive grant award of $8,000. Dr. Miramontes.
Yes, so I'm excited to announce that Buena Park Middle School currently has 136 students enrolled in the agricultural elective. The school's application is to become the first FFA chapter. It was approved by the state 2022 state convention. Buena Park is the first middle school in Orange County of such an honor. Classroom instructor will be supervised for the agricultural experiences, leadership, and building components of the FFA chapter in partnership with the high schools, both Sunny Hills and Buena Park. We're asking that the board approve the grant that was awarded for $8,000 to be spent before June 30th, 2023. So it's a quick one. And if you know Mrs. Andros, she's ready to spend that money like yesterday. And the kids are excited about getting in there and
That's
getting,
awesome for the only middle school.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, thank you, trustee Ahmad. And do I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, trustee Fructos. And is there any discussion on it? No, all right, without any discussion, we move to approve the item. All in favor?
Aye.
And I am also an aye, thank you. Motion passes 5-0. Adoption of initial bargaining proposals of the Buena Park School District and the Buena Park Teachers Association. It is recommended that the governing board adopt the initial bargaining proposals of the Buena Park School District and the Buena Park Teachers Association. Dr. Miramontes.
that's exactly what it is. It's an opportunity for a board to adopt initial proposal at a public meeting.
Okay, do we have a motion? Motion. Thank you, trustee Estrada. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, trustee Ahmad. And is there any discussion? All right, without any discussion, we will move to approve the item. All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm also an aye. So the motion passes 5-0. Approval to award bid 2023-01-13 fencing, district fencing project 2023. It is recommended that the governing board award the bid 2023-01-13 fencing, district fencing project 2023 to La Habra Fence Company Incorporated. Dr. Miramontes.
Yeah, we've I've heard the expression from the board about student safety, and that's our first priority, right? So we have a public bid. Obviously, it's gonna be was the lowest bidder, and so I'm asking the board to adopt this so we can start some of the improvements at all of our school sites.
Okay, do I have a motion? Thank you, trustee Frutos. And do I have a second? Thank you, trustee Estrada. Is there any discussion? Okay, with no discussion, we will move to approve the item. All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm also an aye. Motion passes 5-0. Discussion calendar. Review of revised board policies, first reading. Dr. Miramontes.
Yeah, I want to thank Aaron Phillips, our executive assistant, for putting this format into place. The table provides more openness, open and transparent opportunities for the public to see what we have here. So I've got first board policy bylaw 9100, organization. The new law changes date requirements for districts to hold their annual organizational meeting. Any questions regarding that? Okay, and I know the board received this last Friday when we put it out in public. The board bylaw 9220 governing board elections has been updated, and all these are all new laws that have come through. I added a new section recalling a board member. Not that we want to recall any of you, you're doing a fantastic job, but it talks about what the process and procedure should be for that governing board elections. Any questions regarding that? Board bylaw 9223 fill-in vacancies updated to reflect the new law. I added a new note and body paragraph at the end of the provisional appointments section. Any questions there? Board bylaw meeting conduct was updated to reflect new law, which authorizes the board president to remove an individual for disrupting a board meeting, establish a procedure for warning the individual prior to the removal, and defines disrupting and true threat of force. So any questions regarding that? Okay, board policy 0430 is Dr. Cantu. Dr. Cantu.
Yes, this revision reflects the new law that states that we must have a SELPA relationship that is transparent in both district funding from the state, as well as the SELPA then explaining which funding comes from which district.
Board policy 0450. This is the comprehensive safety plan policy updated to clarify language related to approval of tactical response plan and add material regarding the district's requirement to provide data to the California Department of Education pertaining to lockdown or multi-option response drills as they are conducted at district schools.
The next board policy 0460, local control and accountability plan. The new law states that every district must have a parent that represents a student with disabilities on their advisory board that helps to provide data and to revise the local plan. It also ensures that districts must have two students if they have middle school or high school students. And so that means that we will have to expand based on board approval of this policy, our parents, and now for the first time for us, students will be part of advisory for our local plan.
Board policy 3250. This is transportation fees. This policy is updated to reflect the new law AB 181/2022, which exempts a student classified as unduplicated from paying a fee for transportation. The policy was updated to include optional waiver of transportation fees for any group of district students at the recommendation of the superintendent, and the policy was provision regarding privacy was moved from the AR to the board policy. I would also like to say that in this school district, we do not charge for transportation, and this policy was updated to reflect that as well.
The next board policy.
The next board policy is board policy 3260, which is fees and charges. California Department of Ed Fiscal Management Advisory came out earlier regarding summer school third-party fees, tuition, and we've updated our policy to align with that guidance. The second board policy is board policy 3460, financial reports and accountability. Fiscal Crisis Management Assistance Team, or FCMAT, has a set of indicators of risk of potential insolvency, and those have been added to our policy as was recommended. It also revised and updated to have more clearly if we were to have studies or audits done, who we have to report those to.
The next policy is Board Policy 3515, Campus Security. This was updated to reflect several different features, including the cybersecurity feature and maintaining, securing your networks, providing for backups, et cetera. One of the things, though, the new law that it does reflect, SB 906/2022, requires the certificated and classified employees of the district and other school officials, such as the governing board members, whose duty to bring employee or other school officials in contact on a regular basis with students in grades 6 through 12 or as part of a middle school or high school who are alerted to observe any threat or perceived threat of a homicidal act to immediately report the threat and perceived threat to law enforcement, which completely bypasses the procedures we currently have in standard about how we inform law enforcement. So this puts an additional responsibility on the school district and, more importantly, on staff members to do the reporting. Additionally, policies updated include anyone who receives a learning mental health safety threat related to school or school activity and is encouraged to report that threat to a school or district administrator and the school site councils to be included with other stakeholders when identifying appropriate locations in placement of cameras.
Sorry, appropriate locations.
For the replacement of surveillance cameras.
Thank you.
Okay, next one is Board Policy 3540 for transportation. This policy updated to reflect the new law, AB 181, which authorizes districts to provide transportation services by way of a joint powers agreement, a cooperative student transportation program, or a consortium, and which requires, as a condition of apportionment, a district to adopt a transportation plan that describes the transportation service to provide certain students groups. As this has to be adopted by the board before April 1st. So this transportation plan for the district will be on the March board agenda.
The next board policy for approval of the board is 5131.7. And there are 4 critical areas in regard to weapons and dangerous instruments on campus. The first, it expands the concept of what it means to have district transportation. Second, it reflects the new law that states that all employees, including board members, must alert any perceived threat of a homicidal act. The third point is that it's just a format change of where suspensions and expulsions are listed in that policy. And the fourth states that all employees, including board members, must be trained in order for them to meet their responsibility of alerting authority of any homicidal threat.
Board Policy 5142, Safety. This policy is updated to reflect the new law, which is Public Law 117-159, which requires the creation of federal clearinghouse on school safety evidence-based practice to serve as a federal resource to identify and publish online practices and recommendations to improve school safety. This also includes that the district regularly review the current guidance regarding cybersecurity, digital media awareness, and incorporate recommended practices in the district's process and procedures related to protection of district's network infrastructure and monitoring and response to suspicious and or threatening digital media content.
Board Policy 5148.2, before and after school programs, updates the policy according to the new laws about our after school program, our 9 hours of opportunities for students to learn on campus. It includes the ELOP programs, and as well as to state that all of our programs must adhere to the new laws. I had the next one, early childhood education, board policy 5148.3. This also updates the policy based on the new laws for our California State preschool programs, including requirements related to dual language learners, children with exceptional needs, and enrollment data collection and reporting. Policy also updates any of the state laws in our regarding our regulations around preschool.
That concludes the board policy updates. Please reach out to me or Aaron if you have any questions regarding the policies. Thank you.
And thank you, Trustee McPhillips, for putting things up to date. It was a lot of work, I know. Okay, that brings us to the consent calendar. Unless a trustee has a question concerning a particular item and asks that it be withdrawn from the consent calendar, the items are approved at one time by the governing board. Okay, so, Mr. Chong, do you have anything to remove?
Nothing to remove.
Okay, Mrs. Estrada? Nothing to remove. Ruchos? And Ms. Amat?
I have nothing.
And I also don't have anything to remove. Okay, with no items to be withdrawn, is there a motion? Thank you, Mr. Ruchos. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Chong. And okay, so any no's? I'm sorry. Any discussion? Any discussion? Thank you. Okay, without any discussion, we move to approve the item or approve the consent calendar. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I'm aye. Motion passes 5-0. All right. So, information correspondence, Dr. Miramontes.
Yeah, so great presentation from Corey tonight. Next month, we have Pendleton School report. And looking forward to seeing that facilities modernization update. So we got the spring and the summer to-do list. We've talked about that from the board. And then, of course, the second interim budget report will have more of an idea from that from Mrs. Botti and the fiscal team.
Okay, thank you. A closed session. Conferences with Dr. Ramon Miramontes, Superintendent of the Buena Park School District. Labor Relations, Buena Park Teacher Association, Government Conference Code number 54957.6. Labor Relations, California School Employee Association, Chapter 569, Government Conference Code 54957.6. Labor Relations, Non-Represented Management and Confidential Contract Employees, Government Code 54957.6. Public Employee Discipline Dismissal Release. Appeal for findings regarding complaint against employees pursuant to BPAR number 1312-1 and Government Code Section 54957. Appeal of findings regarding UPC complaint pursuant to BP-AR 1312.2 and Education Code Section 35146. Conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to paragraph 2 or 3 of subdivision D of section 54569.9. One potential case appeal of complaints. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Trustee Ahmad. And do I have a second?
Motion.
Thank you, Trustee Cruchos. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'm an aye, so a motion passes 5-0 at the government board meeting is closed. Going into closed session at 6:53.
So you can stay here. We're all in that.
Okay, is there a motion to reconvene?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Frutos. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Amat. All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so the motion passes 5-0. The governing board meeting reconvening at, oh, where is like, yeah,
8:37.
okay, thank you, 8:37. Okay, reporting out of closed session. In closed session, it was moved by trustee Ahmad and seconded by trustee Frutos regarding the governing board regarding the parental request to consider appeal of employee complaint investigation findings and UCP complaint findings at the next board meeting in March 2023, March 13th.
Yes.
Okay. So, go to the action calendar. No action was taken. And is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Trustee Purchase, and do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, trustee Chong. All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye, motion passes 5-0. And the governing board meeting adjourns at 8:40.
39.
Oh, 39, okay, thank you.
Thank
Thank you.